Welcome back, car enthusiasts. Today we're diving into the automotive dark ages to uncover the 18 ugliest cars of the 1970s. Buckle up because some of these designs are truly shocking. We're talking about cars so aesthetically challenged, they make a Gremlin look like a Lamborghini. From bizarre proportions to questionable styling choices, these vehicles are rolling testaments to the questionable taste of a bygone era. So get ready to cringe, laugh, and maybe even shed a tear for these automotive abominations as we embark on this unforgettable journey through the Hall of Shame. Let's kick things off with a car synonymous with 70s automotive peculiarity, the AMC Gremlin. It's like someone took a normal car and lopped off the back end with a rusty hacksaw. The Gremlin's proportions are all over the place with a short, stubby rear end. All jokes aside, the Gremlin was innovative, being one of the first American-made subcompacts, but man, that styling, it's definitely an acquired taste. Next up, we have a car that needs no introduction, the infamous Ford Pinto. Now, the Pinto's notoriety stems mainly from its, shall we say, explosive safety record. But let's be honest, the styling wasn't doing it any favors either. It's like Ford took all the design inspiration they could muster, crammed it into a thimble, and then said, "Yep, that'll do." The Pinto's boxy shape, bland grille, and overall lack of any redeeming design features make it about as visually appealing as a used diaper. From one automotive oddity to another, we now come to the AMC Pacer. It's like someone took a bubble, stretched it out, and said, let's call it a car. The Pacer's most defining feature is its massive, bulbous greenhouse. It's like driving around in a fishbowl. The Pacer's doors are different sizes. The passenger side door is longer for easier rear seat access. Despite its quirks, the Pacer has a certain charm. Time to address the elephant in the room, or should I say, the rust heap in the junkyard. The Vega earned its place for all the wrong reasons. It rusted faster than a teenager's first car, plagued with problems from the start. And then, there's the rust issue. Rusting from the inside out thanks to poor design. Okay, Mustang fans, brace yourselves, because this one might sting a bit. The Ford Mustang II is a car that's often seen as a low point in the Mustang's illustrious history. The Mustang II was smaller, slower, and frankly, just plain ugly compared to its predecessor. It's like they took everything that made the Mustang great and threw it out the window in favor of fuel efficiency and emissions compliance. Now, to be fair, the Mustang II was a product of its time. Let's be honest, the Plymouth Valiant was already starting to look a bit long in the tooth by the time the 1970s rolled around, but instead of giving it a much-needed redesign, Plymouth decided to double down on the Valiant's boxy, outdated styling. The result? A car that looked like it was designed by a committee of people who were stuck in a time warp. It's the automotive equivalent of your grandpa's old sweater vest. Comfortable and familiar, but not something you'd want to be seen wearing in public. Ah, the Chevrolet Chevette. A car that's about as exciting as a beige wall. Seriously, this car is the very definition of uninspired design. The Chevette's bland styling was a reflection of its overall personality. This was a car designed for pure practicality, with fuel efficiency being the top priority. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with that, it doesn't make for a very memorable or exciting vehicle. Honestly, the most remarkable thing about the Chevette is how unremarkable it is. Oh, Dodge Dart, how the mighty have fallen. Once a symbol of American performance and style, the Dart had been reduced to a shadow of its former self by the 1970s. The 1970s Dart was a far cry from its sleek and sporty ancestors. It had become a bloated, uninspired sedan that lacked any of the charm or character that had made its predecessors so popular. The Dart's decline in the 1970s is a reminder that even the most iconic cars can fall victim to changing tastes and market forces. It's a shame, really, because the Dart had so much potential. Alright, buckle up because we're about to enter controversial territory. The AMC Matador is one of those cars that you either love or hate. Its styling is so polarizing that it makes pineapple on pizza look tame. Some people look at the Matador and see a bold, futuristic design that was ahead of its time. Others see a hideous monstrosity that should have been left on the drawing board. The Matador's most distinctive feature is its massive, sloping rear window, which gives it a fastback-like profile. This, combined with its long hood and short deck lid, creates a very unique and, dare I say, distinctive look. The Ford Maverick. It's plain, uninspired, and about as exciting as watching paint dry. But hey, at least it was cheap and reliable. Ford's attempt to cash in on the compact car demand. Its styling was a study in mediocrity. Despite its lack of visual appeal, it was a decent car. Well folks, we've arrived at the car that's often considered the poster child for automotive ugliness, the Pontiac Aztec. This is the car that single-handedly made minivans synonymous with everything that's wrong with car design. Where do we even begin with this monstrosity? Is it the awkward hunchback proportions, the excessive use of plastic cladding, the bizarrely angled rear window? It's like the designers took every bad design idea from the 1990s and early 2000s and crammed them all into one hideous package. Despite its, shall we say, unique styling, the Aztec was actually a pretty practical vehicle. The Chrysler Cordoba, a car that's synonymous with 1970s excess. From its massive size to its lavish use of vinyl and chrome, the Cordoba was a rolling testament to the more is more philosophy of the era. Now, some people appreciate the Cordoba's over-the-top styling. They see it as a symbol of a time when cars were big, bold, and unapologetically American. But personally, I find the Cordoba's design to be a bit much. It's like they took a perfectly good car and then decided to cover it in every single trim piece and ornament they could find in the parts bin. The Mercury Bobcat. Even the name sounds boring, doesn't it? This is a car that's so uninspired and forgettable that it makes a beige wall look like a work of art. The Bobcat was essentially a rebadged Ford Pinto, which is already saying something. But instead of trying to inject some life into the Pinto's bland styling, Mercury simply slapped on a different grille and called it a day. The result is a car that's about as exciting as a trip to the DMV. The Oldsmobile Omega, another car, another case of May. The Omega was Oldsmobile's attempt to appeal to the younger generation in the 1970s. But instead of creating a car that was stylish, sporty, or even remotely interesting, they ended up with a car that was as bland as unflavored oatmeal. The Omega's design was so generic that it's almost impossible to distinguish it from other compact cars of the era. The Buick Skylark. A name that evokes images of grace, elegance, and soaring beauty. So, it's a real shame that the 1970s Skylark was none of those things. Instead, the Skylark of the 1970s was a bloated, uninspired coupe that looked like it had been designed by a committee of accountants. It was as if Buick had taken all the excitement and passion that had once defined the brand and thrown it out the window in favor of blandness and mediocrity. The Dodge Aspen. Another car from the 1970s that proves that not all design trends age well. The Aspen was Dodge's attempt to create a smaller, more fuel-efficient car that would appeal to a wider audience. However, in their quest for practicality, they ended up sacrificing style and ended up with a car that looked like a cardboard box on wheels. The Aspen's boxy shape was all the rage in the 1970s, but it hasn't aged well. The car's straight lines and sharp angles look dated and uninspired by today's standards. Ah, the Chevrolet Monza, a car that's about as memorable as a dream you had last week. The Monza was Chevrolet's answer to the Ford Mustang II, but it ended up being a pale imitation that lacked the Mustang's charm or performance. The Monza's design was a hodgepodge of borrowed styling cues from other cars, resulting in a look that was neither distinctive nor memorable. It's the kind of car that you could easily walk past in a parking lot and not even notice. And finally, we come to the AMC Hornet, a car that's as exciting as its name suggests. The Hornet was AMC's attempt to create a compact car that could compete with the likes of the Ford Pinto and Chevrolet Vega. However, it ended up being just another bland, forgettable car in a sea of bland, forgettable cars. The Hornet's design was about as exciting as a bowl of plain oatmeal. Well, there you have it, folks. 18 of the ugliest cars from the 1970s. It's been a wild ride through the automotive dark ages, but hopefully you've enjoyed this trip down memory lane. Remember, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so what one person finds hideous, another might find oddly charming. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more automotive content. See you next time.